Warning, minor spoilers. In fall of 2018, I was given the chance to collect a free copy of Yakuza Kiwami thanks to my subscription to PlayStation Plus. I played about two-thirds of the game before I decided to take a break, and then I forgot about the game until almost 2 years later. Holy crap on a cracker, was I an idiot to wait this long to finish it? But hey, better late than never, I guess. The Yakuza franchise is famous throughout the video game community for being the franchise that makes as many stupid decisions as humanly possible and still somehow manages to create amazing games that will go down in history as some of the most beloved works of art Sega has ever created. Yakuza Kiwami is no exception. The writers put their heart and soul into crafting these heavy, emotional stories full of death, betrayal, and heartbreak, and then immediately undercut these stories with the most stupidly random distractions you could possibly think of. They'll kill your favorite characters and then give you a side quest where you have to give tissues to a man who ran out of toilet paper because he needs to wipe his ass. They'll spend hours setting the stakes as high as they can, and then they'll reveal that you can spend 100 hours bowling. And then you end up spending 100 hours bowling. They'll spend so much time setting Majima up as a major character and a legitimate threat to the main character Kiryu. And then the next time you fight him, he's wearing a shitload of zombie makeup and breakdancing in the middle of a fight. There is absolutely no rhyme or reason to so many of the moments that occur in this game. And yet, that is such a major part of the appeal. This commitment to betraying its own tone is exactly what allows Yakuza Kiwami to be so much fun. It is above all else a game of choice, and it is the freedom that comes with letting you choose exactly how you spend your time that this game really shines. There's just so much shit you can do. You can go bowling, get drunk, hang out in a club that is way too modern for a man as old as Kiryu. You can play this stupid little claw machine game. You can absolutely destroy little kids' hopes and dreams by absolutely kicking their asses at remote control kart racing. There's really no end to the dumbass shit you can do. And that's just in the minigames. When you get to the side quests, things are taken to a whole new level. In normal games, side quests kind of all play out the same. They're empty and tedious, existing only to serve as a way to stretch out a game's playtime by tricking you into thinking you're doing something important for meager amounts of XP and mostly useless items. Take Final Fantasy 15, for example. This is an otherwise phenomenal game, where one of the only real flaws is the fact that you are relentlessly bombarded with a bunch of nearly identical side quests. There are 3 types of side quests in Final Fantasy 15. Kill quests, where you drive 5 minutes to kill something. Fetch quests, where you drive 5 minutes to wander around an empty area to find 1 to 10 items. And hybrid quests, where you drive 5 minutes to kill something and then wander around an empty area looking for an item. These quests are all nearly identical, but are marketed as unique. I felt like I was in an annual franchise simulator, buying the exact same game year after year, just because I grew up playing Madden or COD. It was tedious and draining. And yet, nearly every single large-scale video game takes this dog-shit approach to side quests. Final Fantasy 15, Breath of the Wild, Metal Gear Solid 5, Spider-Man PS4, these are all examples of great games and landmark achievements in the gaming world. And I thoroughly enjoyed playing all of them. But they ultimately fell short of being masterpieces because the games were littered with side quests that, despite not being technically mandatory, still greatly diminished my overall enjoyment of the game. Yakuza Kiwami, however, takes the exact opposite approach to side quests. They can range from anywhere to fighting these stupid con artists and their group of thugs to get them to give up their life of crime, to collecting little trading cards for a children's game about half-naked women wrestling. Each side quest is its own self-contained story with legitimate stakes and an actual emotional payoff when you complete it. Every quest is legitimately worth doing because although many of them boil down to just fighting some dudes and then reading some dialogue, the majority of these quests have you doing something beyond just the core gameplay of beating some dude's ass. And even the quests that boil down to dialogue and fighting are worth every second of your time because the gameplay is surrounded by masterpiece examples of short story writing, which is the perfect prelude to talking about the actual story of Yakuza Kiwami. The story of Yakuza Kiwami is the story of Kiryu Kazuma, the Dragon of Dojima, a disgraced former Yakuza member attempting to put his life back together after spending 10 years in prison while taking the fall for a murder he didn't commit, in the hopes of protecting the real culprit, his best friend, from the fallout of killing a leader of the Yakuza clan. Except it's more than that. It's also the story of a police detective trying to find a way to balance the warring responsibilities between his commitment to his job and his loyalty to his less than upstanding friends. And it's also the story of a little girl trying to find the only family she has left with the help of one of the only adults who ever treated her as a human being rather than a burden. But it's also the story of a man giving up everything he cares about, everything he's ever known, in order to claw his way out of a meaningless existence, in the hopes of finding success as the leader of a Yakuza clan. And it's also the story of a woman trying to escape her terrible past, and the story of a man trying to do right by his son, the only real family he's ever had. Not to mention, there's about a dozen other side characters who all spend time in the spotlight, who all have their own story arcs, who all have major character moments, and come together to form an amazing supporting cast for Kiryu and his team. So how does Yakuza Kiwami manage to cram this much story into a single game? With incredible, unbelievable, action-packed spectacle, it weaves this beautiful tapestry of pain, anger, sadness, death, betrayal, and heartbreak. But it also sprinkles in moments of happiness, love, compassion, family, and hope. The moments between major plot points are filled with Kiryu just plowing through wave after wave of Yakuza grunts, with impressive, well-designed combat that is almost as entertaining as watching the finishing moves that Kiryu uses to put his opponents in their place. The chapters are almost always punctuated with earth-shattering reveals and heartbreaking deaths. You watch as Kiryu and his group of insane, lovable misfits lose everything they hold dear, and then you fight like hell to win it back for them. And then they reward you by moving heaven and earth to gain even the slightest sliver of hope or slightest semblance of happiness. And it all culminates into this incredible, high-stakes, emotionally heavy boss battle where everything you have worked for up to this point is on the line. A boss battle that flows seamlessly into one of the most heartbreaking, cinematically beautiful endings of any game I have ever played. The game isn't perfect. There's a lot of fights that don't exactly seem fair, the skill tree and leveling system can feel awkward at times, there are plot points and characters that feel disconnected from the rest of the story, and the sheer number of side quests and collectibles can feel utterly overwhelming at times. But you are going to want to push past the awkward moments and fight through the hardships. The game itself will make you want to keep going, even at its worst parts, and then it will reward you every step of the way. Yakuza Kiwami, and the Yakuza series as a whole, is truly an experience worth having. 8 out of 10! Not a perfect masterpiece from start to finish, but holy shit, this game was good.